New York City, a beacon of progress, a melting pot of dreams. Yet just a short boat ride from the dazzling lights of Manhattan lies a stain on the city's soul, Rikers Island. This sprawling jail complex, a world unto itself, has become synonymous with brutality, neglect, and despair. It stands as a stark reminder of America's broken criminal justice system, disproportionately swallowing up people of color and the poor. Rikers Island was established in the 1930s. It was intended to be a more humane alternative to the overcrowded and dilapidated jail on Blackwell's Island, now Roosevelt Island. However, from its inception, Rikers was plagued by problems. Overcrowding, violence, and corruption became the norm, transforming this supposed beacon of reform into a symbol of systemic failure. Rikers Island is more than just a physical place. It represents the dehumanization and neglect at the heart of our justice system. It's a place where hope goes to die, where the promise of rehabilitation is replaced with the reality of punishment. The history of Rikers Island is inextricably linked to the exploitation of black and brown bodies. During its expansion in the 1930s, the city turned to a dark chapter in American history: slave labor. Black men, imprisoned on minor offenses or simply for being black, were forced to work on the island. These men toiled under brutal conditions, dredging the land, pouring concrete, and constructing the very cells that would confine generations to come. Their forced labor built the foundation of Rikers, a chilling testament to the enduring legacy of slavery in America. The use of forced labor to build Rikers is not a footnote in history. It is a stark reminder of how our systems of incarceration have always been intertwined with racial oppression. The ghosts of these exploited men still haunt the island, a constant reminder of the injustice embedded in its very foundation. Rikers Island is not just morally bankrupt, it's a financial drain on New York City. Every year, billions of taxpayer dollars are poured into maintaining this crumbling facility. The cost per inmate at Rikers is astronomically higher than any other jail in the country. This exorbitant spending does not translate into better conditions or rehabilitation programs for those incarcerated. Instead, it fuels a cycle of violence, neglect, and recidivism. The money funneled into Rikers could be better spent on community programs, mental health services, and education, initiatives that actually address the root causes of crime. Maintaining Rikers Island is like throwing money into a bottomless pit. It's an unsustainable system that perpetuates harm while draining resources that could be used to uplift communities and create real change. One of the most disturbing aspects of Rikers Island is the widespread use of solitary confinement. People, often young and mentally ill, are locked in small windowless cells for 23 hours a day. This extreme isolation, with minimal human contact or stimulation, has devastating psychological effects. Solitary confinement doesn't rehabilitate, it breaks people. It exacerbates mental health issues, fosters despair, and increases the likelihood of recidivism. Yet this cruel and counterproductive practice remains a routine part of life on Rikers Island. The use of solitary confinement is a stain on our collective conscience. It represents the very worst of our punitive justice system, prioritizing punishment over rehabilitation and perpetuating a cycle of trauma and despair. The human cost of Rikers Island is immeasurable. Every year, people die within its walls from suicide, neglect, or violence. These deaths are not just statistics, they are tragic reminders of the human beings trapped in a system that devalues their lives. The average stay on Rikers Island is far longer than in comparable jails across the country. People accused of minor offenses languish for months, even years, awaiting trial. This prolonged detention has devastating consequences, leading to job loss, family separation, and psychological deterioration. Each bar on the chart represents a life lost, a family shattered. These numbers reflect the true cost of Rikers Island, a cost paid in human suffering and despair. For decades, the horrors of Rikers Island have been met with silence and indifference. But in recent years, a powerful movement has emerged, demanding change. Formerly incarcerated people, families of those impacted, and activists have joined forces to expose the truth about Rikers and advocate for its closure. This movement is fueled by the understanding that Rikers is not an isolated problem. It is a microcosm of a larger system of mass incarceration that disproportionately targets communities of color. The fight to close Rikers is not just about shutting down a jail, it's about dismantling a system rooted in racial and economic injustice. The voices calling for change are growing louder, demanding accountability and a more humane approach to justice. The fight for Rikers is a fight for the soul of New York City and a more just future for all. After years of advocacy and pressure, a landmark decision was made. Rikers Island will close. By 2026, the plan is to shutter this notorious jail complex and replace it with smaller, borough-based facilities. This decision marks a significant victory for the movement to end mass incarceration and create a more just and equitable city. However, closing Rikers is only the first step. The plan for borough-based jails has been met with criticism, raising concerns about potential for replicating the same harmful conditions in different locations. The fight is far from over. While the image promises a departure from the horrors of Rikers, the fight must continue to ensure these new facilities truly prioritize rehabilitation, dignity, and a commitment to breaking the cycle of incarceration. Closing Rikers Island is not enough. We must address the systemic issues that lead to mass incarceration in the first place. This means investing in communities, providing access to quality education, healthcare, and job training. We must shift our focus from punishment to rehabilitation, offering people who have committed crimes real opportunities for redemption and reintegration into society. This requires a fundamental transformation of our justice system, rooted in restorative justice, compassion, and a belief in the potential for human transformation. True justice requires looking beyond the walls of prisons and addressing the root causes of crime and inequality. We must invest in people, not prisons, and create a society that values justice over retribution. Even after Rikers Island closes its doors, its legacy will continue to haunt us. The stories of brutality, neglect, and despair will serve as a stark reminder of the human cost of mass incarceration. Rikers Island stands as a monument to all that is wrong with our justice system. It represents the criminalization of poverty, the over-policing of black and brown communities, and the dehumanization of those caught in the system's web. The closure of Rikers is a victory, but the fight for justice is far from over. We must ensure that such a place is never built again, and that its legacy serves as a constant reminder of the need for a more just and equitable society. The story of Rikers Island is a microcosm of America's troubled history with race and justice. It is a story of systemic oppression, of broken promises, and of the enduring legacy of slavery. But it is also a story of resistance, of resilience, and of the unwavering fight for a better future. The fight to close Rikers Island is a testament to the power of collective action and the unwavering belief in human dignity. It's a reminder that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles, change is possible when people come together to demand it. The fight against mass incarceration and for a more just and equitable society must continue, with the legacy of Rikers Island serving as a constant reminder of what we must overcome. The closure of Rikers Island is a victory, but it is not the end of the fight. We must remain vigilant in ensuring that the mistakes of the past are not repeated. We must hold our elected officials accountable for creating a more just and equitable justice system. This is a call to action. Educate yourself about the issues, support organizations working to reform the criminal justice system, and use your voice to demand change. The fight for justice is ongoing, and it requires the active participation of all of us. Together we can create a future where places like Rikers Island are relegated to the history books, replaced by a system that values rehabilitation, redemption, and the inherent dignity of all people.